In the summer of 1876, the United States threw a massive party for its 100th birthday, but the celebration shattered when news arrived from the western frontier. 210 soldiers, including their commander, lay dead, their bodies left scattered across a Montana hillside. Almost immediately, the military establishment and President Ulysses S. Grant pointed the finger directly at that fallen commander, George Armstrong Custer. The official narrative was swiftly taking shape. Custer had blundered into a massacre, and history was preparing to write him off as a reckless failure. But that narrative never solidified. It was intercepted by his wife, Elizabeth Bacon Custer, known as Libbie. She refused the role of the quiet, grieving widow. Instead, she stepped directly into the void her husband left behind and took total control of his story. For the next 57 years, Libbie waged a massive public relations campaign. Through books, lectures, and political pressure, she worked to scrub the disaster clean, transforming a catastrophic military defeat into an untouchable American myth. The enduring image of Custer's last stand shows exactly how history survives. The storyteller who outlasts the battle possesses the ultimate power to define it. To understand how she pulled this off, you have to look at where she spent her marriage. While many officers' wives stayed back east, Libbie rode alongside the cavalry. She traveled by horseback and jolting army ambulance deep into the sprawling, unforgiving landscapes of Texas, Kansas, and Dakota. She did not live a romanticized life. She slept in rat-infested dugouts, survived sudden cholera outbreaks in the camps, and weathered blinding plains blizzards that froze livestock in their tracks. When the regiment went on campaign, she remained behind in isolated garrisons. There, she endured agonizing weeks of silence, waiting on the edge of hostile territory for a husband who might never return. Because she lived through the dirt, the disease, and the dread alongside the enlisted men, the American public trusted her. She was a blooded survivor of the West. When she eventually spoke about what happened out there, her first-hand accounts carried a weight that no armchair historian could match. Yet she was equally fluent in a completely different language. When she wasn't living in a canvas tent, Libbie operated smoothly within the elite, gaslit drawing rooms of New York and Washington, D.C. Even during the Civil War, she had acted as her husband's most effective lobbyist. While George was in the field, Libbie charmed influential Republican senators, actively securing the political backing he needed to win his early promotions. She regularly dined with presidents, with wealthy socialites, and newspaper editors. Through these connections, she learned exactly how the East Coast elite viewed the expanding American borders, and she mastered the mechanics of the emerging national media. She possessed a rare combination: rugged frontier authenticity paired with high society political grace. This dual identity gave her the exact levers of power she needed to mold public opinion and rewrite her husband's story for a willing nation. The moment that triggered this campaign happened in the early morning hours of July 6, 1876. The steamboat Far West docked at Fort Abraham Lincoln in the Dakota Territory, bringing news of the Little Bighorn. In an instant, Libbie and 26 other women at the fort became widows. Left with a meager $30 a month military pension, Libbie packed her bags and moved to New York City. She positioned herself in the publishing capital of the country, shifting rapidly from a state of defensive mourning to a highly calculated offensive. Her primary weapons were her words. She wrote 3 massive best-selling memoirs, including Following the Guidon, a guidon being the small swallow-tailed flag carried by a cavalry unit. Instead of debating military tactics or the disastrous decisions made at the Little Bighorn, she filled her books with warm, vivid storytelling about their adventures on the frontier. By focusing on domestic life and bravery, she bypassed her husband's military critics entirely and spoke directly to the American public. She painted George as a galloping cavalier, a loving, brilliant hero who sacrificed his life for the sake of national expansion. The books were just the beginning. She launched global lecture tours to share her stories in person. She collaborated closely with early biographers to ensure their narratives matched hers, and she aggressively lobbied to have her husband cast in bronze, commissioning physical monuments to stand in public squares. She also weaponized the strict social codes of the 19th century. In that era, No respectable gentleman or military officer would dare launch a public attack against a devoted, grieving widow. Her very presence acted as a cultural shield, silencing anyone who tried to correct the historical record. Her sheer endurance sealed the victory. Libbie outlived almost every person who had been present at the Little Bighorn. She died in 1933, just days before her 91st birthday. She had spent 57 years protecting his name. The golden-haired cavalier making his heroic stand is a triumph of public relations. It serves as a reminder that we don't inherit history. We inherit the versions of it that were most aggressive.